Hello and welcome to episode number 63 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting, spinning, sewing, weaving, crochet, basically all of the fiber crafts that I feel like, although knitting is one of my usual favorites and I think I do a lot of spinning as well. Thank you so much for joining me again. I know before last week it's been a long time because I've been not feeling too great, and thank you for your nice comments on last week's episode. It's good to be back, and there's one thing that I completely forgot to mention last week, because there's also been something, well, for me, very amazing happening since I've been away, and that is that I've made my first sale on Etsy, and in fact I've made my second sale as well, so I'm really happy about that. Someone bought some of my yarn and I've sold a project bag, and that's just amazing. And I know that the buyers are viewers of this podcast, so thank you. Thank you so much. It really meant a lot to me. It was really like a highlight in my, well, let's call it a dark period of my life. Anyway, I'm slowly recovering. I'm still not as crafty as I used to be, but it's getting back there, so I'm quite pleased about that. And I must say, every time that I speak now, I hear this weird clicking noise in my ear, which is kind of annoying because it kind of feels like I'm constantly interrupted, but I'll deal with it, I guess, because it's just what it is. Anyway, so let's get into what I've been doing this week, but first let me quickly mention what I'm wearing, because some people might want to know. This is an Agnes top. This is a sewing pattern by Tilly and the Buttons, and I have no idea what jersey I've used for it. I think it may be poppy, because I love poppy fabrics, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not going to claim that here. I made this shirt about 1.5 years ago. One of the first things I made, in fact, when I started sewing clothes for myself, and I really, really enjoy this, so I'm quite happy with it. I have several of these shirts and I wear them basically all of the time, so they're good. They're really staples for my wardrobe. So let's get into what I've been doing, and the first project that I've been working on are my highlighter rainbow socks. So this is the yarn that I spun myself from some fiber that I purchased at Spin City UK during the Edinburgh Yarn Festival this year, and this is what they turned out like, and I'm really pleased with them. I've tried them on, they fit. I tried something different with the toe than I usually do, so I've basically stuck to my own vanilla recipe, but I've been trying to get a more rounded toe than my usual socks, so they are usually a bit more pointy, and that's because I've changed the increase ratios in the beginning, and I'm not really 100% sure I don't think this is the perfect toe for me, so maybe if I do something like this I need to start out with a smaller number of stitches at the toe. I don't know, but still they fit. They fit fine. So, and even though you can clearly see that they are not twins, they definitely are sisters, so they do definitely belong together, which I really like. So here's the back with the toe. And you guys, I don't know what it was about these socks, but they were slow going, especially when I got to the ribbing. And it's, I do think I know it's because I knit them 2 at a time. And I still don't know why I continue doing that, because I should have switched them to separate needles and just knit them 1 at a time. But then again, this way I know they are exactly the same number of stitches, so that's fine. And this is the amount of yarn that I had left over. I had divided it by wrapping it around my Swift, and I do this when I'm working with handspun yarn, because I'm not so convinced that my yarn is equally thick throughout the yarn. So if I have, say, 100 grams of yarn, then I won't divide it at the point where it's 50 grams, which would be a lot easier. Just wind it while you put one well, you put the 1/2 of the skein on a scale and then wait until you hit the 50 grams point and then just cut the yarn. That doesn't really work with handspun because you the amount of meters you get is more important than the amount of weight you get. So say if you have 100 meters or 100 reps around your swift, then you want to cut it when you have still 50 reps left around the swift. So that's basically what I did, except that it was probably not 100 reps around my swift, but I can't remember what number it was. It was probably something like 180 or something that I had to divide by 2, but it worked, and I think I did a pretty good job in dividing it evenly. On one end of the yarn I had this much left over, so that's maybe one more round on the sock, but I think that's acceptable if you have this amount of loss. And the other end is, well, definitely a bit longer, but yeah, still just so little that I can live with having lost this amount of yarn. Although it's a bit sad that I did lose a color change with it, because there's this color bit which is red and orange and blue together, which didn't end up being in my sock. But then again, there's a lot of funky colors that are in the socks, and yeah, I'm really pleased with them. I also really like how both socks have these areas where the colors are quite matchy and where they are very barber pole-y, but they don't come at the same spaces, but even or even exactly in the same colors. I mean, this is more in the yellowish green and this is more in the blue green area of the sock, but still, because they both have those zones with more or less barber pulling effect, it still makes them, well, kind of match, to me at least. So I'm really pleased with these socks. So that's my finished object, and yes, of course, I have not woven in the ends. I actually did plan on weaving in the ends. Usually I'm not that good. Usually I leave my socks waiting around for a long time before I start weaving in ends. But this time I have an excuse, and it's a bad one, but there is an excuse. So I packed my darning needles to go on holiday with me, and I never used them on holidays, but when unpacking from my holiday stuff, I kind of misplaced my darning needles and I don't know exactly where they are. And I'm not planning on buying more because I know that I have plenty, but at the moment I can't find one in the proper size. So that's why I haven't been weaving in the ends yet, but I think I kind of know where they are and I should just get around to it. But probably it's just also my lazy side that's like, nah, who likes weaving in ends? So yeah, that's probably a little bit of an issue with me. Anyway, so let's get into the next project that I've been working on. And I've been working on this project, well, not very much, and I've started it before my holidays, but I hadn't worked on it a lot. And here it is. And at this point it doesn't really look like much yet, but this is going to be the one front side of a cardigan like this. So this is a neck opening until the shoulder, and I have a button band in black, and this is knit double, or actually it's folded over, and then I stitched it together so that it looks neat on the front side. And that was kind of a puzzle because I think I started this button band, which is where I started this knit, on the wrong side, because I thought I'm going to knit the right side, which needs the buttons first. So I spaced out the buttons, thinking I was just knitting in that direction, but then I thought it would be nicer if this button band has a bit more body and if I can fold it over. So then halfway I decided to fold it over, which I did, which meant that I had to knit 2 sets of buttonholes. So there's, well, this is a little bit of a tube, maybe you can see it through here, but it's black yarn, so it's a bit difficult. But there's a a buttonhole in the front section and one in the back. So yeah, there's 2 holes in here. I don't know if you can see it like this with the top buttonhole. Maybe it's a little bit visible that you can see both my thumbs through the fiber. I don't know. Anyway, so I have a row of double buttons, and then I had to pick it up, but then yeah, and start knitting with the main color for the body, which is this gradient yarn from Kauni, and the black yarn is also Kauni, by the way, but it's just a solid color. And at first I picked it up in the wrong direction, so you would see all these red bumps that you can now see on the back side of the cardigan, where I don't really mind having those. They were on the front side at first, so I decided, nah, this isn't going to work, so I had to unpick it all again and restart it. But I didn't want to restart knitting the entire button band because that was just a bit too tedious for me. And yeah, I've also started a bit of color work, but I think it's going to be very difficult to see on the back side. Maybe you can see it a bit better that there's something going on here, but it's a bit unfortunate that this gradient yarn, it's this one, you wouldn't say so if you look at it like this, but if you look at the center of this ball, you can see that there is some red in there. And I'm hoping that it shifts back to red again, because in the beginning for these dots it was still okay visible to see what I had knit with what color, but this was also a bit of less complex color work. But now I'm moving on to a bit that is definitely more complex color work. And well, there's this row of looks like buttons, and there's going to be a more intricate flower design. I don't have a picture of what it's going to look like, but it is designed by Kauni, I think, or just by Kauni itself, and it's called Strikmodeller 16. So there you go. If you want to look at the Kauni patterns, there you go. I have translated it myself, so I'm not going to show you because I don't think it's nice to give away patterns. But I'm knitting this as a cardigan for my mom, and she purchased the yarns and got a free pattern with that, but it's only free if you purchase the yarn, so it's not really free for someone to just give it away, I think. And so my mom shared it with me, and I think that's okay because she also gave me the yarn to knit it for her. So I feel like that kind of sharing within the family is kind of okay, but you shouldn't do that outside of your family. I feel like anyway, everyone may have a slightly different tolerance to what level of pattern sharing is acceptable, but I feel like if my mom shares it with me, it's okay, but I'm not going to share, especially not randomly on the internet, with basically anyone who could watch. So yeah, this is the cardigan so far, and if it doesn't shift back to more of the red color, then I'm probably going to cut this yarn and see if I can find the point where it starts transitioning back to the red. So it should be somewhere in there, but I'm just not sure how long it's going to take, and it's just difficult for my eyes to see what I'm doing this way. So yeah, but it's coming along just nicely and slowly. Anyway, so that's my knitting for this week. So then there has been a little bit more spinning this week, but really not as much as last week. And basically that's because last week was not necessarily that much spinning, but it last week I also could catch up on everything that I did in the past month, and this time it's only from week. So I'm still spinning on this Shetland yarn or Shetland fiber. I don't know, I'm making yarn from Shetland fiber. This is where I'm at, so it's not that I completely failed to spin this. It's just intentional that I didn't spin this bit yet, so here I can still continue adding more yarn if it looks like this. If it's spun, I don't know. If you see the bit of fluff in my hand or before my hand, that's here you can easily attach more fluff, and you will just twist it together. But once it's twisted, it's more difficult to add more yarn to it. It's not impossible, but it's just more difficult, and I don't like taking a more difficult road than is necessary with spinning, because, you know, it should stay enjoyable. So, but I think it's coming along nicely, and there it is. So, I'm going to take a sip of water because my throat is getting very dry. So then there is one more project that I've been working on this week, and it is a weaving project, and in fact it's a project that you may have seen before. I'm not really sure if I've shown it before, but here it is, and I've managed to get the reed out of my loom. Let's put it on the back side this time, maybe it will stay in place a bit. So, and here it is, and you guys may have seen this project before. I have been weaving a similar band for myself, but I was originally band weaving this on a small rigid heddle, so I was weaving this on this tiny heddle. But since I have a weaving loom now, which I didn't have back then, I decided to try and see if I could transfer it to the loom, because I thought that would be easier to work with, and I think it's quite easy to work on now, but transitioning it to the loom was a bit of a tedious process, and it doesn't look very neat here. It usually looks a little neater if you start warping on the weaving loom right away, which I obviously didn't because I had already started it on the other loom. Maybe if I show it upside down, it's a bit easier to show the project that I've, well, the part that I've actually been working on. So yeah, so I made a similar band, and then my sister requested a piece of band for herself to make something like straps for some bags, and I'm still weaving it for her, but I wasn't so very fast in making it. But now that it's transferred to my weaving loom, I'm hoping that I will be able to finish it a bit faster for her. Yeah, and it's been a bit of a struggle finding my tension again, because you can see the edges here, they are not as neat as they used to be, or at least I hope you can see that, because I'm not sure whether my camera will zoom in properly on the area that's interesting. But yeah, it's coming along nicely, and I'm happy that I've transferred it to the loom, because I feel like it's more enjoyable. I can move it around through the room a bit easier, but if I'm ever going to do this again, I might just restart the entire project. I'm not too thrilled about the black yarn though. It has a lot of knots in it. Yeah, and I think that's a bit sad, but that's simply the case. I can't change that now, and I hope that it won't be too visible or something in the end product. So I think that's all for today. I have not been working on any other projects this week, and once again, thank you so much for joining me. It really means a lot that you take some time out of your day and spend it with me. It's amazing to have this online community going. So yeah, thank you so much, and I hope to see you again next week. Have a lovely week. Bye!